Local Board of Education, Monday, May 19th, 2025. Would you stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Kavesky.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Richard second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Brown.
Aye.
Dr. Noel.
Aye.
Mr. Kavesky.
Aye. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as written for the regular meeting, April 21st, 2025, and the special meeting, April 28th, 2025.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Mr. Kavesky.
Aye.
Dr. Noel.
Aye.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Brown.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the school report.
All right, so for school report tonight, guys, I am excited to introduce, we have our students here that have represented us with some of the professional organizations, BPA, HOSA, and so I always love when we get to bring kids in here and get to honor them, but at this time, I'm actually gonna turn it over to one of our teachers for the program, Mr. Berger, and our Director of Career Tech, Mr. Mon, to kind of talk about our kids that are here with us tonight, so.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So I'll just give a quick snapshot and then I'll let Mr. Berger talk about, because I know he loves doing it, talk about BPA. So each career tech program has what we call CTSO, where it's an organization they can be a part of, and then there's competitions along the way. So we were very well represented, and I would say on a yearly basis we're well represented in our BPA program and HOSA and some others as well. BPA, we had 5 students, and I'll kind of put Mr. Berger on the spot. So that's business, graphics, and programming. We had kids from each of those 3. So Mr. Laughlin's out today. Mr. Forshee is sick, went home sick. And then we have, for HOSA, we have one of our 2 students here that qualified for nationals. So since I'm talking now, I'll introduce Abby. Or do you want me to do that, or
Yeah,
do you want?
absolutely.
Okay.
No, perfect.
So we had Abby Moore. This is where you have to come
Come on up, Abby.
I know. And Miles Fornash, he's not able to be here tonight, he's at work. But they actually took first place, and Abby, I think your mom asked me, does she have to talk? And I said no, because I didn't know Mrs. Miller couldn't be here. So they placed first in the state as a team in?
Community awareness.
Community awareness. And end of June, they'll be going to national to compete in nationals. So first in the state, obviously a pretty big accomplishment. And I know they're fantastic kids and fantastic in the competition. So they will represent us well, and we look forward to seeing how they do. So, Abby, if there's anything, you don't have to say anything, but if you want to give a speech, you might. And then for BPA, I'll let Mr. Berger. We have three of our 5 students that were able to be here this evening, representing the 3 programs. So I'll let Mr. Berger. They were in, one thing about the competitions. They're usually in like really tough areas like Disney or Nashville. Those places that you don't want to spend much time. So they just got back from Disney. Orlando. I should say Disney, but Orlando. I heard Disney's close, but they got back not too long ago. They're competing, so he'll talk about that experience and bring the kids up.
All right. Thanks for having us. We always like to talk about the kids. So BPA, Business Professionals of America. We've been doing it, Phil, Jimmy, and I, Mr. Laughlin, Mr. Forshee, and I have been doing it for a long time. We were very skeptical in the beginning, and we were kind of hesitant. And Nikki Howard, really long time back in the day, she was doing CT at the time, and said, "You guys got to try this." So we reluctantly got after it. And after a few years, once you get in it, you learn the ins and outs, you can start to be competitive. Once you learn the game and learn the rules, then you can be competitive. So for years, we've been qualifying from regionals to state. So we had 2 kids that went down to state with us back there, Derek and Mr. White, and we did a great job in state. We took 15 kids, did a great job, and then we ended up having 5 qualify to go to nationals. Right there, Jocelyn Harsh is the other one with us today. And just the thing that always impresses me most about our students, no matter their experiences, no matter the walk of life, they always absolutely represent our school like you hope they represent our school. And that's the thing we always talk about on the way back, is how well our kids did. Whether they win, whether they come up a little short, whether they're in the middle, they always conduct themselves, dress themselves, act accordingly, exactly what we want a Wildcat to look like. And that is really the number one thing we are always proudest about. Now winning, getting on stage, doing things like that, getting trophies, that's all great too. But the experiences that they have gotten and have been supported by the school is just been outstanding. We're very grateful for that the board sees fit to support us in these endeavors. And I'd like to think we rewarded your trust with having students that represent what we're trying to be very, very, very well when we're away from the campus. And Jocelyn Harsh ended up with a top 5 place finish in the nation this year. And that's not too bad when you've got like 8,000 people in the arena screaming their heads off, and one of ours is up there. So let's give all 3 of them a round of applause. It's absolutely a wonderful job. We had Jocelyn competed in photography, had to sell. Come on up, we'll do one at a time here. Had to get in this like a trade show and had to sell herself for hours, talking, shaking hands, giving out freebies. And
Oh, yeah, very good.
oh no, wait, I'm all dressed up in baseball stuff.
That's okay, buddy.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you.
Yeah, and she just, I've never had a student make it to the photography finals, and she worked so hard, and her family supported her, and you guys would just be, I wish everybody could have been there and see how well spoken this young woman was and how well she represented her community and her school. So really, really proud of you. And the 2 guys in the back here battled. They were in some extremely, extremely competitive regions where you walk in, and it's not like 5 kids. You're going against 60, 70 people. The best, they've already made it through state. So when you get to nationals, this isn't just kids that, just walked in. These are the best from, all the different states. And it was spreadsheet and programming. Web design, I was close. And they, again, we're very proud. They did great in state, and again, did really well and held their own very, very well at nationals. And these 2 young men, we got to know them a lot better, and we were just so thrilled that they got to go and got to compete. And Mr. White's gonna, his sights are set on next year. He's only a junior. He's a youngin', so he's gonna be coming back with us hopefully next year. So overall, thank you for this time. This has turned in from something I thought 15 years ago was a curse to an absolute blessing for the students and for me and the fellows as well. It's just, we have so much pride in what we're able to help produce and guide these students, and they do all the work. We just shove them out the door. But our kids show that they are ready to go into the real world, the 21st century, and understand the business world, and we couldn't be any prouder of them. So thanks again for having us. Appreciate it. Come on up, you
Landon
two.
and Derek, come on up, guys. We'll get you up here as well. So Landon White, yours is 4, earning first place, by the way, in state at the fundamental worksheet application event and qualifying for nationals. And then Derek for recognition and achievement in finishing top 7 in states to qualify for nationals as well in web design. So we'll get you guys here. Congratulations. Congratulations. Get that ready to go. So yeah, please round of applause. Again, we talk about it, we bring kids in here all the time, but this is what we really want to be about. And one of the cool things, like you see Jocelyn now all over the state of Ohio. And I think even out of the state, as I was giving her pizza recommendations in Michigan, because that's one of the things I do. I do know restaurants in different places. But, she's all over the place here. Like, this is about providing providing kids with opportunities, and these are kids that take the most of it. And so just know, we're very proud of you. We really appreciate you. Abby, we wish you and Miles nothing but the best as you make it down to Nashville, down there this summer here. To Derek and Landon and Jocelyn, congratulations on already representing us, but just really appreciate you guys. Before we let everybody go, one more, Mr. Gavesky, if you want to bring Drew up here real quick, student rep to the board, we're going to take a moment and just thank.
Should I go up there?
Yeah, come on up, buddy, absolutely. So, I'm gonna let you give this.
All right.
So, to Drew.
Drew, appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks for
and
having me.
time.
It's
Appreciate all.
amazing.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, absolutely.
I didn't prepare anything.
That's all.
Trying to think about it here. Anybody else want to talk, like Derek or Landon or anyone? Okay. Jocelyn? All right, just so we make it, or Abby, you're the only one that got put on the spot. Drew, we do, just like Mr. Kavesky said, just greatly appreciate your willingness. Listen, I think it's important that the board hears from our kids. And I really appreciate you being here to share kind of your experience and what's happening. And Marissa could not be here tonight because we're in round 2 of the softball tournament game, and she chose that over coming to the board meeting. But for all of you, other than you, Drew, for everybody else, you are welcome to stay. We have lots on the agenda tonight. If you picked up a copy, it's really exciting, especially the treasurer's report part coming up. Yeah, absolutely. But if not, thank you for being here. We know it's a nice night. Appreciate you guys. Thanks. Coach,
Middle school choirs.
oh, absolutely. Middle school choir is right down the hall. Every night this week, there's something between middle school choir, middle school band, honors night, all that stuff. So I think we have a little thing called graduation on Friday as well. Oh, yeah. I heard about that. Yeah, so, but thank you guys so much. Yeah, you don't get to go far. You just get to go down the hall. So thank you.
Thank you. This is pretty swell.
Thanks, guys. Derek, thanks. Derek, thank you. Thanks. Oh, thank you. It's okay, good.
All right, moving on to the hearing of the public.
Yeah, no one that I'm aware of, unless Mr. Justice has something he wants to say, but he didn't sign up in time anyway, so.
All right, let's do the treasurer's report.
Okay, we've got a very, very busy agenda, so unfortunately, you're going to have to hear me talk a lot, so let's prepare for that. Item A, we have the monthly reports. If you turn to Exhibit TA1, we have the check listing for April, with checks totaling $2,650,439.97. I recommend approval of the check listing for April. Exhibit TA2 is the monthly financial reports. Our cash, we ended April with $23,400,572.61 after reconciling items. Outstanding checks of $124,347.25. Investments were $21,357,430.92, and total bank balance $23,524,769.86. Page 2 and 3 of the report is a listing of all of our balances by fund. And the total current fund balance there, the bottom line matches the reconciled balance, which it should every month. And then page 4 is a listing of all of our investments. We have those timed through April of 2030 for the total invested amount of $12,923,217.26 at U.S. Bank. And then the last page is a listing of receipts and expenditures at the end of April. This year compared to last year in the first couple columns there, and then this year compared to our estimates. And I recommend that for approval. We're going to get into the 5-year forecast and get into these line item details, so I won't go through all those in detail. I recommend that for approval. That's number 2 there. And then lastly, under A, we have Exhibit TA3, listing of donations for April. Marathon Bell Stores and Dairy Queen, $1,200 donation for graduate yard signs. The Mini Group, $1,900 donation to preschool and kindergarten readiness. Red Ash Memorial Fund for scholarships, $12,354. Bill Wright, a $500 donation for elementary yearbooks. Ohio Gradings, donation of 490 pounds of steel valued at $308.70 for a career tech program. And an anonymous donation of $200 to 6-Man Meadow. I recommend item A for approval.
Can I get a motion on item A 1, 2, and 3.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kodesky?
Aye.
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
All right, item B, the next two, if you'll remember, we discussed at our last meeting, the House version of the budget bill, that has been passed. That version included a 30% cap on general fund carryover. So when we looked at the information we got from the county auditor, we'd be looking at potentially losing $8 million in funding, if we did nothing. So listening to a lot of different presentations at the annual conference for OASBO, we met as a group of superintendents and treasurers at the county office, talking about some of our options. We had attorneys present to us. So we've done a lot of work to try to figure out how we can protect our resources. We've done a great job over the years. We know that with our community, we don't want to go ask them for additional funds. So we've been very diligent in trying to save money where we can. A lot of districts around us have been handing out 5 and 6%, upwards of 4, 5, 6% raises. We've treated our staff well and been fair, but knowing that we need our fund balance to last us more years than most districts. North Canton goes on the ballot all the time. They're able to approve. Not all districts are that way. So we planned for that. We had a healthy carryover balance based on the board's policy for carryovers. And the House in the 11th hour added the cap on there. So all districts that have been in that position to prepare for that now have to be in a position to try to maintain that cash balance legally, which these next two resolutions we've done, worked with attorneys to draft them up. So I'll go through each one here and explain a little bit about them. So the first one is a resolution authorizing establishment of a termination benefits fund, that's Fund 035, and authorizing a transfer of $3,600,000 from the general fund to the termination benefits fund. So the termination benefits fund is a legal fund that's in the law. We're allowed to move money to this fund. This is specifically set aside so that way we can pay our severance and early retirement incentives for any staff member that's leaving the district over the next 5 to 10 years. So when we look at STRS was 34 years to full retirement, it lowered to 33 and now to 32. That pushes our retirees that we have a very older staff, we have a seasoned staff that have a lot of years. Looking at it, when we have staff that are age 48 in the next 5 to 7 years, they're gonna be eligible to retire, a lot of them. So that number is upwards of 50 to 60 staff members that we're gonna be looking to replace. With that, we have severances, early retirement incentives in place. That money has to be paid from somewhere. We can move it to the termination benefits fund. It takes it out of the general fund. That cash balance is no longer in the general fund. Those were expenses, though, that would be paid out of the general fund, and we would incur anyway. So moving it there creates flexibility for us. It just takes it out of the general fund. One good thing about it as well, when we're doing the 5-year forecast, it's a little bit more predictable on salaries when we're not trying to figure out how many people are gonna have retire and how much their severance is. We just pay it out of the 035 fund. It's not part of the 5-year forecast anymore. So I'll recommend that we approve the establishment of the termination benefits fund 035 and authorize a transfer of $3,600,000 from the general fund to that new fund.
Are we gonna do these one at a time?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, good,
we
because I had a
should do all
question
these
and I
one
didn't
time.
wanna ask out of
Yep.
order.
Yeah.
All right, can I get a motion to vote on item B?
I'll make a motion.
Second? I'll second.
When we move money in here, do we have to provide explanation to ourselves or anyone to say when we wanna move money out to not use it in this way?
The money that goes from the general fund to the termination benefits fund is not something that can be moved back, so when we
Okay,
put it
so
in there,
it's in,
it's
it's there.
earmarked for our
Okay.
severance and retirement incentives, but I do have calculations, it's not required to be submitted with the resolution, but if the auditors ask, I have calculations, I have a listing of all of our staff members by age, and how many people that we're estimating to retire in the next age 5 up to 7 years.
Okay,
And came up with an average severance calculation for each one. and came up with a number, so that's how I arrived at that 3,600,000, so.
Yeah,
I
so that
believe-
means, once that money moves, no matter what, that's where it's gonna stay, and you have the documentation to show why that number is such.
Yep, so
And
instead,
it's for the next 7 years.
it'll exist forever until the funds are used up.
Right.
And then over time, I would expect as that dwindles, we would look to move additional funds in it, so that way we continue to pay those out of there. So,
Okay.
in the future, once we get close to liquidating that entire 3.6 million, I would expect that we would look on an annual basis and say, in May, this is how many people we have retiring, here's what the expected severance is, and we move that amount to cover that. So that way, it's all handled through that fund.
Okay.
And just know that even if things change, there's just a certain severance that goes, basically, even if things change in that retirement, and I'm not anticipating this, but would ever go away or anything, there's other severance that goes out. So it would never be in a situation where we're not gonna need it. in any
Oh, for
way.
sure, totally agree there, but I just,
Yep.
And so you'll see when we do the appropriation modifications, I'm actually going to request that the board increase or establish appropriations in that fund for 250,000 for those that we have retiring this year already. Some of those payments may not come in until July, but we'll have the appropriations there in case they get all the paperwork in, and we can pay those in June, so.
okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Yeah, aye, sorry, he's distracted me.
Mr. Tedeschi?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll? Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Okay, the next one, resolution authorizing reestablishment of capital projects fund 070 and authorizing a transfer of $4,500,000 from the general fund to the capital projects fund, as presented in exhibit TC1. This fund is a fund that we've used in the past. We have transferred general fund dollars in the past over a number of years into an 070 fund. That was to build the new middle school, so it covered our local share of the new middle school. This is something we're allowed to do by law. The nice thing about the 070 Capital Projects Fund, which is contrary to what the 035 can do, once we move funds in there, we're not locked in to keeping them there. If we don't initiate a project within the first 10 years of having funds in there, it reverts back to the general fund. If the board decides that the projects that we listed in this exhibit, which the two that we listed, potential purchase of property, there's the potential at some point that we might have the ability to purchase some property around us here to expand career tech, and I think we're always gonna be looking to expand career tech at this point. So that's one of the projects we're looking at, and then doing renovations to whatever facility we might purchase to make it ready for career tech. The other thing is baseball and softball complex. We've all seen what happened this year with the flooding. It's a thing that happens every year. Not saying that we're going to 100% move forward with that. We're gonna take a look at some estimates to see what we can get, but the other project that we have listed there is baseball softball complex. As I mentioned, it can move back, so in 3 years, if we decide that we're not gonna do either of those projects, the facility doesn't become available to purchase, the board can make a decision, move the money back to the general fund where it can be used for operations again. So both of these resolutions, what we've tried to do is maintain our flexibility with the fund balance that we've built, because we know we're going to need it in the next 5 to 7 years when we look at our forecast. But then allow us a lot of flexibility to be able to move funds back and forth in the 035 fund. Expenses that we were going to incur already, just moving them out of the general fund and moving that fund balance out of the general fund. So I recommend approval of the resolution establishing the capital projects fund and transfer of $4,500,000 from the general fund to the new capital projects 070 fund.
I will make the motion to act on item C. I need a second.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
So Jason, after moving money out of, for the 035 and the 070, how do we look as far as the 30% goes then, or how does?
So
was
on the
that next?
5-year, yeah, on the
Okay.
5-year forecast, go ahead, on the
Okay.
5-year forecast, that brings our projected balance down to $8,397,619, which is about 28% of our
So we're not
operating
gonna lose
expenses.
anything by that?
Correct.
And then are we looking at, they're using this 30% check as like like an end of fiscal year every year kind of thing, or, cause I'm just thinking about for now as we move into the next, so, okay, we're safe now.
Right.
Then as we move into the next cycle, is it that we need to keep regularly checking that number, or we don't need to check it again until like we did it this time of year for next year, where we say, okay, should we shift some money here?
Right, so there wasn't a whole lot of clarification by the legislature and how they're going to calculate the 30% and when the calculation is going to be done and how the budget commission is going to go about recouping tax money. They just threw it out there that there's a cap of 30%, let's figure it out. It's expected that we would be looking at our ending cash balance. So at the end of each year to the budget commission, I have to send a listing of every single fund in our what our actual ending balance was. So I would assume they would use either the 5-year forecast that we're filing tonight or the
That would make sense, 'cause
certified
you're already
balances
submitting it.
that I have, that I will be sending the first week of July to our county budget commission. And then I would expect also that we would look each year at that, if it's something that ultimately ends up in law. Right now, it's in the House passed version. The Senate's considering the budget bill, and I expect will act in the next couple of weeks on their version. Then they'll get together in a committee, and then the final bill has to go to the governor, where he can either line item veto certain things, or he can sign the bill as is. So there's still a long way to go, but I think making these moves is the prudent thing to do, just so that way we're protected.
Better safe than
I
sorry.
hate to be sitting here
For sure.
telling you in June that, well, we missed the boat, we didn't put it in our forecast. We're kind of not going to see that money being collected next year and the year after, so.
Has there been any word on the street in the last month about that piece of the legislation
Well,
that anybody had predicted?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. While nothing is a done deal yet, everything we're hearing, including in my conversation when I was able to sit down with Senator Timken, and then with Senator Landis's staff when we went down to Columbus, I think everybody realizes that 30% was incredibly too low, so we got no guarantees, please, but I think they realized this is a problem. And I think they realize that this isn't a real long-term fix of anything. So I would expect to see changes based off of what we've heard, but please know until it's done, it's not, and that's why I 100% agree with Jason. We're way better safe with this than we are.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think there's a trend moving in the right direction. The last thing I got from my group of superintendents, there was a meeting over at the Massillon Chamber of Commerce. I could not go, but Fairless's went. Is that the conversation there? Fairless's superintendent said was that they realized they need to do something about property tax, but it's not going to be solved with the budget process. Was the last that it may come a little bit later and separate, which is a good thing, I think, because that allows it to be a little bit more thoughtful than within this.
I think it was a knee jerk
Yes, I agree.
reaction.
Yep.
Good. Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kavetsky?
Aye.
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight? Okay. Item D, we have appropriation modifications. Right page here, so exhibit TD1, general fund, to cover the transfers that we just made, we have an increase of $8,750,000. The termination benefits fund, $250,000 for this fiscal year. The capital projects fund, 070, $25,000 in there. The 300 extracurricular activities fund, that would be our athletics and also our theater program, $50,000 increase. And then 3 grants there, Title I, Title IV, Title IIA. Those are just reallocations that we received. $16,406 for Title I, $1,006 for Title IV, and $1,640 for Title IIA. I recommend we modify appropriations to cover those expenditures.
Can I get a motion to act on item D?
Make motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kavetsky?
Aye.
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Okay, item E.
I'm in so much trouble.
My mom,
Yeah, that's okay.
No,
No,
we can pause.
no,
Okay.
that's
We
okay.
can absolutely pause.
No, she'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Another big item we have on the agenda tonight, this this is the first resolution that the board needs to act on in order to place a renewal levy on the ballot in November. So this is for the 10.8 mil combined. It's 8.9 mils operating and 1.9 mils permanent improvement. It expires at the end of tax year 2025, so the last collection year would be 2026 for this levy if it is not renewed. So this is the first resolutions that's required. Once it's passed by the board, I will send it to the county auditor. They'll do all the calculations, send it back to us, then we will have a resolution to proceed, which gets presented to the Board of Elections and it's placed on the November ballot. So a couple of things to bring up about that. I believe this was first passed in 2001 and amended in 2006. It was increased in 2006 for additional funds. It's been renewed in 2011, 16, and 21. So it's a 10.8 mil levy, 8.9 mils operating. If you remember when we talked about 20 mil floor with property values, the property value increases that we saw in tax year 24 brought us to the 20 mil floor, meaning, sorry, drink of water.
This is the most you've ever had to do with this.
I know. I'm gonna.
This is normally me for everyone. Randy brought double drinks here.
So we dropped to the 20 mil floor, meaning that our residential and our business taxpayers, regardless of whether this levy gets renewed, their property tax bill is gonna stay the same. Even if it's voted down, if the board decides they don't wanna move forward with it, our residents aren't gonna see a savings on the 8.9 mil operating levy. That's a hard thing to explain to people, but if it's not passed, all those other levies that have been passed from 1970 through that levy are gonna be raised up so we continue to collect 20 mils, barring any change in the 20 mil floor. The only thing that our residents and other businesses would save on if it's not renewed is the 0.9 mils that we collect in permanent improvement. So our residential and other business taxpayers, farmers, are gonna see a savings if they have a $150,000 home of about $40 to $50 a month. Or $40 to $50 a year, about $5 a month is the only savings they're gonna see. Meanwhile, our public utility taxpayers are going to see a savings of about $2 million because they pay the full voted rate. So when that levy's not renewed, they're saving the full 10.8 mils on whatever their value is. So that's a message that we need to be precise with. We need to have factual information and try to communicate that out to our community. So that way everyone understands what they're voting on.
So bottom line, $40 to $50 a year on 150, because I have a question too.
I recommend that the board pass a resolution of necessity to levy renewal tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? No, we can ask.
Brandy, do you want to go on that?
I was just clarifying the
Okay.
headline right.
All right. Talking with the township though, so this will be on in November. Does the township look like they're going to be putting anything on at
I
that
don't believe
time
so.
too?
Their levy passed in the spring, a few weeks ago, so I don't believe they'll have anything on the ballot.
It passed in the spring, but if anybody held on to that township newsletter, oop, hold on, they shut us down, no. They started telling our story, they put in, all of the Canton
Right.
local levy amounts in
Right.
there.
Yep.
So we may also, when talking about having the right communications to say, we will also need to speak to, because I immediately, was asked questions by other community members, well, what is all this from Canton Local? Because it's not something that they would have gone looking for, but then it was presented to them. So I feel like we need to make sure that that is considered in communications.
And the township is really good about supporting us,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, for sure, I don't think it was
Yes.
meant to
No.
cause harm,
Right.
it just generated additional
Well,
questions.
and as it went out there as well, or what is it going to, please know, I've communicated with the township trustees that we intended, obviously it's always a board decision, but that we intended to recommend this renewal for November. So we've let them know, so they were good, they were putting their road levy up in the spring here, which obviously we know just passed. And as long as it passed, we should be free and clear from any township levy, to the best of my knowledge, moving into.
Oh, right, there
Which
will
is
be
helpful
both,
for
yeah.
us, very helpful.
So if the levy passes, just to be clear, there will be no increase. It's not an
Right.
increase in tax, it's a some reason it's not renewed, our taxpayers are gonna save, like I said, about 40, it's 40 to 60. We'll have the exact numbers. When we start communicating that information out, we'll get the county auditor to give us those exact figures, so it's factual information. But not a huge savings for every one of our residents, huge savings for the public utilities.
One of the things, and Jason touched on this, but we are gonna need to be prepared to have this conversation ready, is that everybody just saw their taxes go up because of the 20 mil floor. And getting people to understand that, again, just like Jason said, yes, we know they went up, that wasn't us, that's House Bill 920. Even if you vote no, you will not see that reduced. Unless there's other law changes that would change House Bill 920. So, which there are things on the table for that, but not passed.
There's a lot of uncertainty. It's a difficult time to have a renewal levy on the ballot, but this is something that we absolutely need. Our community needs it because if our public utilities are saving $2 million, where does the $2 million come from? Ultimately, we're gonna be going back to them to ask for it. So,
How much does it cost us to put the levy on the ballot?
I will have to find
I know there is a cost for that.
there is, I'll have to get,
I was just curious.
because they just changed, I think they changed some of the laws on how much
Okay.
the Board of Elections charge us.
Okay.
But I can get that estimate
Yeah.
from the Board of Elections when I file that paperwork with them.
And I do think it's cheaper that if we do it during a general election than
Right.
if we are on like a
Right.
site. But again, I don't wanna,
Yes.
those are just from the back of my mind, I could be off base and I don't wanna.
That's
Okay.
100% accurate.
Okay, Mr. Schatzel, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kozowski?
Aye.
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Okay, and last but not least, item F is the 5-year forecast. This is the May version. We're required to update our 5-year forecast by the end of May of each year. We last passed the 5-year forecast in November. This forecast obviously is gonna look a little bit different with the transfers that we just approved tonight. So with that, I'm gonna kind of jump in here. And I did give you a handout. I'm not gonna go through every one of these, but this handout here explains a little bit in layman's terms each one of the lines of the forecast and kind of where we're at. So line 1.01, we just talked about this. I'm not gonna go into it in detail, but with the 20 mil floor, if you look in fiscal year 24, our general property tax, this is from residents, businesses, and agriculture. We received about 6.3 million. That jumped up to 7 million in fiscal year 25 because we only got half of those collections this year because taxes are on a calendar year. We're on a July to June fiscal year. So then in fiscal year 26, we'll see the full increase there. Another roughly $800,000 increase in property tax collections, and then relatively flat after that. Every time we get any sort of increase at the 20 mil floor, it's realized in property tax. So those small increases beyond fiscal year 26 are projected there. Line 1.02 is the public utility tax that we have. So public utilities, if you look there, went from 7.2 million in 22 up to 8.2 million in 24. And for 25, we collected 8.5, and I'm expecting 8.7 in 26. With that number goes down significantly. If you look at fiscal year 27, 28, 29, what happened there? I have to put the renewal levy tax amount at the bottom, so it's in line 11.02. If you add those figures together, it's going to equal 8,750,000. Before, when I did that, I had to also break out the general property tax number and include that down at the bottom because a portion of that was dependent on the renewal. But like we talked about, it doesn't matter on our operating side. We're not going to lose any money if that levy gets voted down for operations. We would only lose the PI portion, which doesn't get presented here. So we don't have to put that number down here. Public utilities, I did want to note, I don't believe it's written into law yet, but there was a piece of legislation that was passed by the House, or was it the Senate? There's a piece of legislation that's out there that requires governor's signature that would reduce the assessment rate on public utilities from 88% to 25%. We've talked about this, I think, at a past meeting as well. But it is only on new construction of public utilities starting in 2027. So the existing property is still going to be taxed at 88%, but as we move into 28, 29, 30, and beyond, we're not gonna see that 88% of that value. That's why that number is so significant right now, because it's taxed at 88%. So going forward, any of that new stuff's gonna start to tail out. I haven't projected that because it's hard to tell beyond fiscal year 27 what that number's gonna look like. It's assessed at the state level every year, so. Unrestricted aid, this is our unrestricted state aid. In the budget bill that was passed by the House, they did away with the fair school funding formula, which was, there was a lot of committee work that went into it by a lot of school treasurers, legislators. There was a lot of people at the table when they put together the fair school funding plan that was supposed to fix school funding in the state. Probably the first constitutional funding model we've had since I can remember, probably since I was born. The House scrapped that. They wanted to make sure that everybody saw no less money than they received in the previous year. So in order to do that, they scrapped the funding plan and just said, this is how much money we have available. Here's how much each school gets, and no school lost funding. It's great that schools didn't lose any funding. It's very scary that we're going back to a model that there's no funding formula for. We're not educating kids based off of what it takes to educate a kid. We're educating them, or we're funding them based off of how much money does the state have available for education. And we all know how much money goes to vouchers, and we won't get into any of that stuff. But the funds are there to adequately support public schools. Just choosing not to
Redirecting.
So the unrestricted aid and the restricted aid line items are based on fiscal year 25 is what we're going to receive for this year, based on our foundation estimates. Fiscal year 26 and 27 are based off of that House passed version. Again, that could change. We're hopeful that the Senate's gonna reinstate the formula and do some sort of adjustment there rather than scrapping the formula altogether. But right now, that's based off of what the House's version is, which is basically flat funding us the next 2 years. Beyond that, we do have some losses projected in there because we've heard that they're looking at maybe starting to cut some guarantees and so just being very conservative there and showing projected reductions in state aid beyond fiscal year 27. Line 1.05 is our homestead and rollbacks, and then we still get a small chunk from whenever they phased out tangible personal property taxes on businesses. We still collect about 400,000. We get that'll be fully phased out in 2027. We're losing 200,000 a year there. So we've been losing 200,000 a year for about the last 9 years. That's been reduced. So that'll be fully phased out. So you'll see a loss there from 25 to 26 and 26 to 27 of 200,000. And then 780,000 what we collect on homestead and rollbacks, the state portion of people's tax bills. And then lastly, other revenues. Most of that is interest and tuition that we receive for career tech students that attend our program. So in the past, that was all part of the unrestricted aid. Now they want us to pull that out and report it as tuition. So that gets lumped into other revenues. And total revenues, we're seeing about a $1.2 million increase from last year to this year. Again, that is mostly in public utilities and our property taxes from the 20 mil floor being reached. And then on the expense side, our two biggest line items are 3.01, personal services and retirement fringe benefits. So salaries, line 3.01, we have negotiated agreements in place until 2028. 1% base increases for each year of those agreements. And then our staff get a 3% lump sum for each of those years. But if you think about it, if they get a 3% lump sum and a 3% this year and a 3% lump sum next year, the only increase we have is the 1% that's on the base because they got the 3% lump sum the year before. We also calculated in there some savings for the positions that we're not replacing for next year. People that are retiring this year, there's, I believe, 3 or 4 that we're not replacing. 4 positions not replacing next year. So that's going to offset the increase that we have from steps and the base increase. From last year to this year, there is a pretty big jump there. All the employees that we had paid by ESSER rolled into the general fund. We still had a handful of those employees left, mostly 6 permanent subs across the district. That was the majority of those positions. So pretty significant jump there. Those were things that we expected and we talked about last year and in the November forecast. So line 3.02, fringe benefits. We just got notice from the county, our health insurance rates are only going up 5%, so that's a blessing. There's a lot of entities right now, they're seeing very large health insurance increases. So dental and vision, I believe, are 0% increases. Health is 5%, and we're also receiving a premium holiday next year as well. So that information's been updated from the November forecast into here. And then we're projecting an 8% increase and 1 premium holiday for each year after this year. That's based on recommendation from the Stark County COG who we have insurance with. Purchase services, things like utilities, out-of-district special ed placements, the money that we pay for our students to go out to other districts for career tech, all that money gets put into purchase services, that purchase service line item. Not a huge increase from last year to this year, and then just based off of historical percentages, I based fiscal year 26 through 29 based on that, what our historical increases were. Supplies and materials, everybody knows at home how much things have increased. Food costs way more. Just everything you go to buy is more expensive than it was a couple of years ago. And we've seen that with our supplies cost. So from last year to this year, we went up about $200,000 in supplies. We're hopeful that with some cooperative purchasing things that we're able to do, and we also we're purchasing a significant amount of things that are going to carry over to next year, cleaning supplies wise, that will help us offset some of that increase for next year. But beyond that, we're just projecting about a 5% increase in supplies. Capital outlay this year, the board approved the project for network upgrades. While we're going to get refunded from E-rate, we hope. Did we get approved for that? We're all approved?
We're approved.
So 80% of the cost of it's going to come back into the general fund in the future, but the cost of that network upgrade is going to be split between 25 and 26. That's why capital outlay there is 500 and 400,000. Beyond that, the 250,000 is for us to upgrade equipment, mostly in our career tech programs and then in our classrooms. 405 and 405.5 and 406, that's the COPS lease, principal and interest payments there. Projecting those to go through fiscal year 29. We did get some good news. We had a conference call with the OFCC. There is a likely chance that we could be given an offer for funding as early as next year. If that's the case, the state would pay for their share of that project. We could pay off that COPS lease, and then the little bit of money that we have left after that payment would go back into either the permanent improvement or the general fund. But the lion's share of the state amount that we would get would pay off the COPS lease.
But it would save it would save the interest though.
Right.
Yes.
The principal and interest expense would go away on the 5-year forecast because we'd be paying down the principal. We wouldn't have any interest beyond that. A little bit of stroke of luck, but the first time that we're able to pay off that debt early, because we had early call features in there, is December of this year. So if that's the case, we timed that perfect because it's first eligible to be paid off in December, and we potentially could get funding early next year. So that's a stroke of luck, but it just so happened that that's the case. So hopefully that happens, and we'll report back as we receive more. I think they said we should know more by early June. So that's it. Well, other expenses, we have a lot of things lumped in there, mostly auditor's fees, bank fees, all the other things that aren't included in these categories here. So at the bottom line, after transfers and advances on line 5, the $8,100,000 that we're transferring to the termination benefits fund and the capital projects fund, and then an estimated transfer to the athletics fund to wipe out negative balance there. We will end with $8,397,619 in our general fund for fiscal year 25. Our projection in November was about $17 million, but as we talked about, we're doing what we can to preserve the $8 million and keeping us below that 30% cap. The positive thing on the 5-year forecast, with the savings that we have through attrition, with the insurance savings, we've trimmed our deficit spending estimate in year 5 of the forecast. We went from a projected $3.1 million deficit down to 2.4. So we've already eaten into that projected deficit by 700,000. As people continue to retire and replace with people that are lower on the scale, or if there's some other positions that we can save, we're gonna continue to do those types of things, so that way we can get that number close to zero, so. I recommend approval of the forecast and the assumptions as they're presented.
I got a motion to act on item F.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schetzel, will you call the roll?
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Moving on to communications.
All right, Drew, we're gonna start with you, buddy. It is now time for student rep to the board, and,
All right.
okay.
So I'm not talking about money or bills. So you guys have a nice break.
Thanks.
Sorry. So, there's a lot been going on, and I'm not fully up to date because as a senior, I haven't been to school a week. So I had to get a quick brief from Miss Gearhart. All kids are wrapping up testing and any assignments, whatever, they're getting all wrapped up. So the department here, they chose the most outstanding student and the most improved student in every grade in every department, and they celebrated with a little ice cream social. We've had 2 students, perfect attendance, good for them. Our girls track team won.
Yeah.
They won the Pac-7 championship, first time ever, and alongside that also set a couple of school records. And now we've got all the senior stuff. I'm sure you guys have seen this every couple of years, but it's my first and last time as a senior, so I've only seen it
Good.
once. So it's our senior week. Tomorrow night, we're having senior scholars. Then Thursday is the senior awards. Then the Friday, the day of graduation, there's breakfast, 8:30, practice 9:30, and then the actual ceremony will be held at 7. I believe this is, I wish my partner in crime was here, because this is our little last one, our last one, or?
Yeah, this is your last meeting,
Wow.
yeah.
So we could have shared this.
You're welcome to come back in
I
June.
mean,
buddy.
absolutely.
We could have shared this moment like, wow, it's our last one, but
Yeah.
she hasn't shown up, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. She was playing softball tonight.
Yeah, she's not just kidding.
It's a
She's
tournament
actually
game,
doing
yeah.
something. So, but this is my last one, and it's been a pleasure being here. I've learned so much. I've learned, no offense, but I'm not going to be on the school board. So.
But they get,
treasurer.
You could become the treasurer.
listen, they get paid almost $85 per month, which comes out to about.
80.
Oh, see?
$80.
Oh.
Listen, the treasurer will keep you in the line. They get paid, so that comes out
We
to.
had me at 85, but now.
That comes out to about $1 an hour, so.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
But I just want to say thank you guys for having me and and I appreciate this a lot, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You did a good job.
Did a great job.
Yep, really appreciate you, and I love your sense of humor, everything that. All right, so before I start going as well, I'm gonna turn it over now to Lisa Hookway. She's required as food service director to give a presentation on our food service, so that's part of our communication here. It's gonna be Lisa coming forward here.
My second public speaks tonight. Just get it all done in one day. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update of food service and what's kind of been going on and some of the troubles and some of the accomplishments that we have made this year. The Nutrition Service Department in Canton Local is proud to share the accomplishments and progress made in 24-25 school year. Our commitment to providing nutritious meals and that meet the USD standards for the school lunch, our school program and the breakfast program remains our top priority. This was our first year that all of our buildings were able to qualify and participate in the CEP, which is the Community Eligibility Provision. So all of our students were able to receive free breakfast and free lunch this year. We qualified at a 46%, and then with the ISP factor, which is identified student participation, our reimbursements were the following percentages. 74.26% of our lunches served are reimbursed at $4.45, while 25.74% are reimbursed at 44 cents. Breakfast reimbursements are $2.84 and 39 cents respectively. We served on an average this year of 2,137 meals between breakfast and lunch daily. Breakfast numbers were down slightly from last year. I looked at like last year's numbers. However, our lunch numbers did increase, and I'm gonna say that that's probably because last year the high school breakfast was free, but the kids had to pay for lunch. So I just think it was a shift from eating breakfast to eating lunch. The average cost of a meal this year was $3.73. Now remember, we're only getting $4.45 at 74% of what we're selling. This is up 62 cents from last year. One of the things that I want to say that I was very proud of is we put out a student survey, which kind of is driving our menu for the fall. But in that survey, we asked about, how's your customer service? How do you feel when you come into the cafeteria? And I want to say that overall, our district rated a 5, 1 out of 5. The kids' comments were they feel respected and they feel that we're there to serve them. And I was very proud that we scored that. Financial overview. We are currently running at a financial loss. Loss to date is $56,608.03. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is down significantly from last year. I'm hoping with fingers crossed that we're gonna end the year under 100,000. Huh, Jason? So that's where I'm hoping that we'll end it with a good May. I think that will be totally doable. Some of the things that we have done and changes that we have made this year to make that loss less significant is we started kindergartens using breakfast carts versus their breakfast being packed and sent to the classroom. This significantly reduced our labor cost at breakfast. We have reduced staff by not replacing where it made sense to do so. Utilizing our commodities and allocations and aligning our menus so that what is available in commodities that we were using that to the fullest. Utilizing our DoD funds for fresh produce and reallocating funds when necessary. So when we get our allocations are based on meals served. I think last year it was our allocations were 93,000. 30-some thousand were put in the DoD fund, which allows us to buy fresh produce. And I forgot where I was going. So anyway, that and then commodities are food that the USDA provides to us at a reduced cost. So say a case of taco meat costs $60 if you were buying it commercially. Through the commodity program, we can get it like for $40 a case. Or sometimes there's food that is available through USDA that the only thing we pay is shipping. So one of the things that we started doing was making our own taco meat because we can buy ground beef 40-pound cases for $2.99. It was just making those little changes so that we can save on our food cost. Next year we're going to be participating in GFS offered a balanced ordering program for next year.
which allows us to, we have to purchase a certain amount of cases over the summer. But with that being done, they're gonna give us an additional, 0.75% rebate on everything we buy next year. So, we're gonna be participating in that next year. I'm proud to say that all 3 schools have, received 100% on their health inspections this year. This achievement demonstrates the dedication of our staff in maintaining high standards in cleanliness and food safety for all of our students. We also utilize Healthy Meal Pro in partnership with Project School Nutrition. Healthy Meal Pro is our software where we put in our production sheets. It also ensures that we are in compliance with our USDA nutrition standards, and it ensures that the guidelines are met, and it streamlines our ingredients so that and provides standardized recipes. Healthy Meal Pro also provides our staff with online production and calculates the usage of products to ensure proper ordering and production, thus reducing food waste, and proper ordering so that we're not overstocked or carrying a lot of inventory. Some of our local partners is Dogo's, where we get our fresh pizza dough, Atlantic Foods for produce that when we can't get something from the DOD, Nichols Bakery, and Prairie Farms, which just bought out Smith Dairy, is our local partners. Looking ahead, our funding is also at risk. Some new proposals in committee are not in our favor. CEP qualifications, it used to be 40% or 20%, then they dropped it to 20%, now they wanna raise it to 60%, and again, we qualified at 46%. Income verification, if we go back to application, income verification would be something that we usually only pull a percentage when we're taking applications to verify income. The proposals are that we would have to verify income for every application that comes in. I just read something today from SNA that they're not really talking about touching the CEP qualifications, but what they are talking about doing is changing how families can qualify for SNAP and Medicaid, which will then change the CPE qualifications. I'm confident that we will pivot and work through any challenges that come, and at the end of the day, no matter the challenge, the most important thing is to feed our kids. So, that's all I have. If anybody has any questions?
Yeah, West Campus, so like we'll be feeding other students from different districts now.
Yep.
Will they pay for those meals, or how will that work?
So they will pay for it in the tuition rate that they pay for us, that they pay to us. But working with Lisa, and this was actually Lisa's idea, I'm really glad she came up with this. West Campus, like multi-county, is actually going to feed all the kids over there. So in that $50,000 a year, the $5,000 per month rental fee, one of the things we did, instead of lowering the rental fee, we kept food service as a part of that. So we won't be responsible anymore. It will all go through multi-county. And so we're paying it in our rental fee to them. And on top of it, districts, if other kids that come in, will be paying it in their purchase service lines coming into us.
So we'll have no staff going out that way, which will save us.
I'm correct on that. Greg, we want to
Yeah.
make sense. I just want to make sure
Yes.
that
West Campus is, in looking at the West Campus piece, West Campus is part of the National School Program. And for us to continue to do providing meals over there, it was just becoming like a financial hole. And because we had to get different inspections and different things, and I had reached out to a couple of food service directors, to say, okay, tell me what this looks like. And for the small amount of meals that we take over there, because it does vary quite a bit, depending on who's in attendance. It just made sense to allow them to feed them, and
initiative to do that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
That all came from Lisa. I mean, Lisa's the one that found that, and that's, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Great job.
So did your survey go to all grade levels?
It did.
Nice.
It did.
That's excellent.
Yes.
That's excellent. And it's excellent the culture that the staff has, because I know anytime I'm in a building, everybody has a relationship with someone in the cafeteria, so.
Yes.
But did you see how many people came tonight for Fed? I mean, did you see
Yeah,
that?
that's nice.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And Jason, I know you were gonna say something.
So, in support of what Lisa said, when she first started, she kind of threw herself out there a little bit under the bus with the loss that is gonna be projected. When we first started in the CEP program, it was known to the people that were making decisions to move forward with CEP, that there's a potential that we could lose money in the food service fund, that that was an important item for our kids to have, an important benefit for our families to have to provide the meals, not to mention the burden on the food service department and our secretaries for taking applications and stuff. But we knew at some point the potential was there for us to lose money by participating in CEP because the reimbursement rate is low enough that it doesn't cover the cost of food. We've been very fortunate, and I know COVID was very challenging in a lot of ways. The things that we did with providing meals for families and the way we were able to claim those meals generated one heck of a healthy balance in our food service fund, and it's carried us to this point. We haven't had to transfer money to the food service fund. At some point, we may have to, but the other side of the coin, when students are identified on the CEP as low income, that counts as low income. So our buildings that qualify for CEP are 100% low income. So in the funding formula that is in place, we get funded more money for disadvantaged youth. So the fact that our buildings are at 100%, our general fund has benefited greatly by the fact that we have provided CEP. So
It's a win-win.
those things I think are important to mention when we talk about why we're taking a loss this year. And the last couple of years we have, we knew that going in, that the potential was there for us to maybe have to supplement that fund. But overall, it's been amazing for our families, for our district,
yeah.
for our kids. I mean,
Yeah, you can't
it's
look at the
amazing
number in
program.
isolation.
It would be a catastrophe if they raise that percentage to 60%. It could be a catastrophe if they just take away the SNAP, the change that you're talking about, because our direct cert percentage could fall below 40%, which means we wouldn't qualify. We might qualify at one or two of the buildings, but certainly the high school wouldn't qualify anymore for free meals, so.
And this was something that we said for 3 years when we did qualify, and it may get changed. So we just put out there, hey, we've got this for 3 years, and maybe we don't.
And that's at the federal level,
Yeah,
not at the state
state.
level. Those decisions are being made at the federal level, so.
And when will we actually know answers to that?
Your guess is as good as
Yeah.
ours.
Before
Yeah.
school starts next
We
year?
hope.
We will qualify, I believe we'll qualify for next year, no matter what the change
Okay.
is. I would think it would be something that would start beyond next school year, that they would make that change.
It's hard on
Not
parents
a
though,
guarantee, but
because they get so used to that free meal. And I know the last time that we had to do that, the advertising went out that high school will have to pay, but there's so many people that,
Well, certainly.
Yes.
You don't have it in your budget, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing is just, then it just becomes a deficit because the kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
You
don't always
need-
keep
yeah.
money in their accounts, and if
Mhm.
there's negative balances, and there's lots of districts that still have to deal with that.
Yes.
And
some families that are on the fence of whether they qualify for free meals or not, that don't ultimately qualify and they don't have the money,
Yes.
the kid's not gonna eat a healthy meal.
Right.
Unfortunately, if we're not able to provide that, so I decided to throw that out there.
well, thank you.
So,
So
look, guys,
we don't quite know what our funding's gonna be as far as meals,
Mhm.
next year. That is, you know, we're still waiting.
Mhm.
Hopefully here within the next couple of weeks, we will know. I do know that our allocations for next year, I think I said that 93,000 is what our allocation was for this year. Next year estimates right now are 63. So that could change,
Yeah.
but I don't know yet.
Okay.
Turmoil.
It's like-
Everything.
Hey, Lisa's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, just a phenomenal job, and just, Lisa, just wanna make sure I say that publicly, and very excited, she's just stepped in and been amazing, so really, really appreciate her, and, just, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nice job.
All right, well, hey, I still have more, don't worry. But wait, there's
He's
more.
Ron Capel.
Hey, there you go. Hey, you know, Drew hit a lot of the things with senior events, so I'm not gonna go through all that, other than graduation, guys, Friday night, we're all out down the field. Probably wanna be here like 6:15-ish to make sure you get a parking spot, all that fun stuff. So, just a reminder on that, as of right now, rain's looking like 10% in the evening. We are gonna probably roll the dice, but we'll make the final call on that around noon on Friday. Of everything, we're gonna do everything we can to be outside. It may be a little chilly, but we're gonna do everything we can to be outside because that means more people can come in. Get you news, you know, especially been down in Florida. Jason been down in Texas. Oh, you're good. So get you there. Just a few other things. As you know, we have a concert going on right now, which is actually started, which is why you don't hear them anymore out there in the hallway. But it's that time. We have concerts. We have all the other things. 5th grade camp just got back. Unbelievable time again. I know Mrs. Davis is volunteers to be down there. So excited about that. Our 8th grade students went to DC. Fantastic opportunity there. We had prom since the last time we've been there, which
How could I forget?
I don't know. You want to go, Drew? How was prom?
It was a good time. It was great.
Yeah.
What was the place called that?
Haymarket Mill, 1875.
Yeah, it was a very cozy place. It was pretty small, so everyone was, I was mingling with everybody. Hey, how are you?
My favorite was Grady McGirt was going around with a 99 to early 2000s video
Yeah, little
camcorder.
Sony.
Little Sony,
Yeah.
like I enjoyed that. I actually snapped a picture of that. That was awesome. I'm pretty excited. But we also had hairspray. We put on hairspray and unbelievable. I will tell you this. There's never been a time that I've been to a high school musical where I thought the crowd was going to get up and give a standing ovation in the middle of it, or until the performance Eliana Maley did, and I don't know the song, and I should, but I don't. But holy crap! Like it was almost like the crowd was ready to just get up off their feet.
Right.
It was unbelievable. I mean, just chills thinking about it. Drew mentioned about the girls' league track, but district track this week. Marissa Heck, her game's probably over by this time. She could have been here, but we're in the second round of softball tournament. But here's something I want to share with you, and this is the thing that probably makes me the proudest of anything. State test results came out last week for everything other than English language arts. On average right now, our math scores from 3rd grade math through geometry have gone up by 5.5%. On average, our science scores, 5th grade, 8th grade biology have gone up 10.3%. On average, our social studies scores have gone up by 9%. No, we're not there yet, but here's what I want to tell you that was so awesome. When I walked into the middle school last week. Please know my days all run together. I don't know which day it was. But I know the kids were still in DC because Chris wasn't there, and so I was going in to celebrate with teachers. And teachers were crying out of joy. And on top of more than that, like hugging, like on top of that, it was, hey Brad, have you talked to Robin Bentley yet? Have you seen Dan Laurie yet? They were celebrating each other. They were wanting to make sure that I didn't miss. Did you go see Scott Stair? Did you see Cecilia? Like everywhere I went, like they were pointing me out to them. I'm like, I just came from there. And they're like, you gotta go make sure. It was awesome. It was awesome. We got to see what language arts. I think Wednesday they come out here ready to go. Please don't hear me saying that we're where we want to be, but boy, are we trending in the right direction with that. Some of our growth, some of them, like 3rd grade, went up by 14%, 3rd grade math. 6th grade math, which is why Dan Lauber, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this on camera to anybody that's watching, we'll get 22 views of this later on, was in tears. And I was watching Colin and I was hugging, and his teammates, like, it was just amazing. It was amazing, and it's something that you as a board should be very proud of because it was awesome. So I thought I'd share that, and now I think we're ready to go through all the other stuff that you guys are gonna have to vote on, about 18 different things all at once. So, sorry, Mr. Kaveski and Mr. Schatzel, to call the roll. What's that?
Maybe 20.
Maybe 20, yes. Math is not my thing, I'm estimating. So, all right, the first one's personnel, A1 and 2 that we can't do together on this one, except we are gonna have to abstain or pull out a couple things on this. So, for resignation retirement, we talked about it, Victoria Hesse is gonna officially resign for retirement purposes. If you saw in my update that I put out there to you, originally the plan was her to work next year all the way to the end of January. Okay, but now that they lowered it to 32, our plan is instead, we are gonna hire her back as a consultant through the Stark County ESC for 50 days. That keeps us consistent with having her there for Allison to support her in that role, having her there to support Jamie as Jamie's taking on more, but it's gonna come at a considerable savings to the district. We're gonna pay her what her daily rate would have been, but it's gonna go to the ESC to purchase services. There's not gonna have to be on that insurance, there's not gonna have to be all those, those other things that go with. It's a considerable savings to the district while still having the plan in place that we wanted there with everything. So just making sure everybody's aware of that. Next, Patricia Procedley, she was a core sub, she actually moved out of state, so she resigned as of May 12th. Lucas Kimball was our strength coach. You'll see this when we look for the approvals here of people hiring. He finished half the time in that role, but is gonna be unable to complete it. And so you'll see that we're filling in the other half with 2 other people coming up. But those for resignation purposes. For employment, Sarah Hohadel, James Wise, and Larry Wyatt, we would like to get on there as substitutes. If you see Sarah at a different rate than what we're approving, that's because she's coming in as a central office sub in there to just be available, help out, still work with Julie as she goes through, but just to have her on that as we go. It will be as needed from there. The next one, Tanner Metz, I do want to talk about for just a moment. Tanner's our athletic secretary. I believe it's been here with us 5 years now. Tanner has always been paid the base year teacher salary. So that puts us right around $44,000, okay? But it's for 185 days. Well, I see Mr. Knight with the chuckle, because if you know anything, Tanner is here all the time. So what we've been doing is paying overtime and time sheeting for the summer. So as we started having these conversations, it just made more sense to bump him to a 260-day contract, put him on the same salary of what our not salary, but the same schedule of what our classified would get for vacation days and all of that, but bump that salary up to $58,000. That's still lower than the average for what you're gonna see for other people in that role, but he will on top of that also get the 3% lump sum, just like everybody else. But he'll have vacation days he can use then at the time, but it's just more consistent with what's actually happening on that. Next, and Jamie and Nick are here. As you guys know, Jamie and Nick are taking on substantial responsibility increases. One of the ways we can do to make sure that we're taking care of them financially for that as well is we're adding 10 extended days on there. The reason why you see 10 extended days, it's not that I expect Nick or expect Jamie to be sitting in their office on a day with nothing to do to put that in, but there's gonna be days they're here longer. There's gonna be days, there's gonna be extra responsibilities. This was a way we could add it on and get more to the responsibility level that they're gonna be in charge of, because both Nick and Jamie are taking substantially more responsibility next year. So that's why you see both 10 extended days there. Rachel Taylor, that administrative supplemental contract, this is, I believe, is year 3 that we've added this. I was gonna say, I'm glad you shook your head, yes, Jason, because I was doubting myself if it was 2 or 3. This will be the 3rd year coming up. This is because she oversees all enrollment coming into the district. When we eliminated the receptionist position, Candy helps with it, Candy does a lot of work with it, but at the end of the day, Rachel's the one that's making sure this gets done. It's a big responsibility, and from her seat, so it's to make sure we compensate her from that. The next one that you'll see, Drew Labke, the H is silent, please know I had to ask, okay? Drew is, we'd like to recommend as our new HVAC instructor. I wanna thank Brian and I wanna thank Krista, they did a ton of work going through interviewing 2nd rounds. I think they even talked to Drew on the 3rd round here with everything, but feel very good about him. He is coming from industry, but also has experience in adult ed programs as well, so a little bit of that coming up from the Brunswick area, coming down here. So again, when you see us starting a teacher at step 12, that's normally not what we do. We did work with the union though, because when you're hiring out of the career tech world, they think you're gonna get people out of industry to come in here. So, okay, and just so making sure everybody knows that's why you see us coming in at a step 12 higher, but that is the world of career tech. In fact, we're still well below what career centers are paying right now, and Jason can tell you that as well. Also, because Drew's in his 1st year starting the program, we'd like to award him 10 extended days. That's consistent with what's happened anytime we have new teachers in career tech build. With it being so new and it only being mainly a junior and initial with some seniors this year, you'll probably see us bringing that back again next year as he really develops his 2nd year in the program as well in that senior program. The next 2 are the next 3, honestly, summer workers. Guys, this is something we've done the last couple of years where we hire our staff for the most part to come in here. We pay them $20 an hour, and we know how much work they get done. They've been amazing. I think you saw that list of things. If we get through all that, it's been a heck of a summer. we know that that's probably, but we'd like to get them on there and get them hired as well. Athletic supplemental contracts, that's where you see the two young men to take on the 1/4, to pick up the other half of the rest of spring weight training. And Paige Parson to be our cheerleading coach again. Paige did a great job for us last year and to get her on there. That is 1 and 2 ready to go, and we probably will need to have a
When's the
separate vote.
Washington trip?
What's that?
Washington trip?
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yep, the Washington DC, these were the staff members that went with us on the Washington DC trip, and that is in the contract that they get at that $120 stipend. So we'll probably need to make sure we pull out DC and summer workers.
Okay, can I get a motion for item A, 1 and 2, except pulling out the Washington DC trip stipend and the summer workers?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kibesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to act on summer workers 2025?
And Washington.
Can we do it together, or?
Can we do
Yeah,
this?
Yeah.
we can do both those together, yep.
Okay, and the Washington DC trip.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Abstain.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kibesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
All right, so item B, administrative salary schedule and benefit package. This is just updating this as we go through, because we just had a negotiation. They follow the same raises that go on with the certified union. And so that would go there. The one thing that you will see is we did ask to add a step 11 because that is consistent with what we did within the certified union of adding step 31, 32, 33 at the end of that.
I'll make a motion to act on item B.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kibesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
All right, item C, fiduciary central office, administrative secretaries and security officer salary schedules. So again, these are based off of the raises that we get with, the classified staff. And so that is what we have going here. Same deal, you see that we've upped it to step 20 on there because that's the exact same thing that we just did with the certified staff as well. So at that point in time, guys, I would like to make a recommendation that we approve that one as well.
Can I get a motion to act on item C?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will call the roll.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kibesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
All right, next, teacher assistant school nurse salary schedule effective July 1 through June 30th, 2020. We have 3 people total on these salary schedules here with everything, but we do have to approve them. The teacher assistants are over at multi-county, and the school nurse is Mrs. Serafini here. Our other school nurses are compensated through Akron Children's Hospital that we contract with.
Okay. Can I get a motion to act on item D?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kibesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye. Brett, just a quick question.
That's
And
okay.
Are we slowly like transferring off of paying our own nurses into moving more on the,
Yeah,
Exactly.
Lori's such an important part of, but yes, that will be the.
is it monetarily better or just staffing wise better?
It's a little bit of, it will eventually be monetarily better, and the reason for that is Lori is an RN. You only have to have 1 RN per district, and then the rest can either be an, can be a lower level nurse. I was gonna start quoting things and realize my ignorance. Yes, I am on the college, or the board at Altman College, and I still don't know the answer to those things. So eventually, we will be able to do that, but there has to be an RN who oversees everything. Akron Children's RNs can't oversee our employees, so they can oversee. So eventually, whenever Lori decides to retire, then we'll probably contract it all through Akron Children as long as we're still happy and it makes sense with that. That makes sense with that. Okay. Now we're down to, are we on item E? Substitute pay rates, this is honestly the same as last year, just we have to set those substitute pay rates for next year. I'd like to recommend that we approve those.
I'll make the motion to act on item E.
Second.
Is there any questions or concerns?
One question that's, sorry, I don't know this
No.
answer. What's the difference between an aide and an assistant?
Okay, between an aide and an assistant, so I honestly don't know off the top of my head
Okay.
of how you say that. So a parapro and an aide are people that would be in the classroom. We do have a difference between monitors. Monitors are people that will monitor the cafeteria, they'll monitor the hallway, but they're not directly, and interacting with kids is the wrong word.
Right.
But a parapro that's an aide, they are in the classroom, they are running, groups, they're doing things, they're helping. I mean, Mrs. Davis spent her whole career doing that. Honestly, an assistant may be something that is just still on there. You may be better
It's
answer
a
than me.
terminology, it's more of a term, and it actually is from multi-county. So the two people that we had in multi-county were more referred to as assistants.
And they were on this pay scale?
Right, right, but
And
because
aren't
they're,
aides.
right,
Okay.
but
If we have a
paraprofessional,
sub, they would
right,
be fall under this $14 per hour.
Okay.
exactly. And paraprofessionals is pretty much what we have all been transitioned into that
Right,
title.
Yeah.
that one I'm becoming more familiar with.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, good, and thank you for helping me out on that.
Phone a friend.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
that's
All
the
right.
only question I had.
No,
Thank you.
perfect. Okay, so guys, for the next one here.
Oh, we gotta go.
We got a
Sorry.
roll call now.
Listen, we voted a lot.
Yeah, I hear you.
We're gonna vote a lot more.
Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, so now we're gonna go down to, and I'm just gonna quickly talk, and we're gonna have to vote separately, but items F through L, and we have to vote on them separately here, these are standard practice. This is where we have people that are up for their contracts, we go from there. Just know, when we get to the non-renewals, there is no one being non-renewed for performance-based. There's none, okay? They are being temporary positions, or, like, for example, Jack Edwards, he filled in to be there for Erica Karavic that was out. That's a non-renewal. It's not because we think Jack's doing a bad job, that's how he was hired to go from there. So, and we'll start with item F, renewal of limited contracts. That is for our teachers who are within their first few years. Here in the district, they get 3 one-year contracts. I'd like to recommend that we approve them.
I'll make a motion to act on item F.
Second.
Questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, so item G, renewal of limited contracts, and that is for people that are going on to 2 years here, and that means they've been here longer than those 3 years, they move into that next part there. I'd like to recommend that we approve them.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, so I believe now we're going to item, I'm losing track of my.
G.
G, thank you, good, geez.
No,
H.
H.
No, H, where
See?
it's continuing
All right,
contract.
Continuing contract. So issue of continuing contract, these are people that are recommended to receive a continuing contract within the district. They've met all the characteristics needed. So I'd like to recommend that, and they've been recommended by their building administrators as
Yeah,
well.
these are the certified.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'll make the motion to act on item H.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns?
I just wanted like some clarification on Jordan Norris.
Yeah.
Because he's being non-renewed, but then he also gets that 1-year limited
Yep.
contract.
So to be very honest with you, I should have pulled Jordan Norris off of the temporary dispute
I
hearing.
thought
Yep.
so.
So we'll strike that when we get to it here.
Okay.
Here's why. Jordan Norris was hired on a 1-year position last year, has done a very good job in kindergarten, and that is basically Tanya Van Boris retiring is filling into that role. He did a really great job with that. So we're renewing him on that. Thank you. I will strike him off that list. That's my fault.
I just noticed.
No, I'm glad that you did. Thank you so much.
Eagle
Yep.
eye.
Okay.
Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, next, we're gonna do the issuance of continuing contracts for our classified staff. Same thing, they've met the requirements, been recommended by their supervisors.
We get a motion to act on item I.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Noel?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, next, non-renewal of certified contracts, and this is just what I talked about, this is all, no one's being done for performance reason, it's either because they're temporary positions or they're fund, we wait till we get the funding each year. So, that is for our certified, item J.
I'll make the motion to act on item J.
A second.
Any questions or concerns?
So you will take Jordan off that list?
That's correct, yes,
Yes.
can we strike that, minus Jordan
We'll
Norris?
make that change, and then the exhibit that's in the minutes will
Okay.
not include Jordan Norris.
Thank you,
Okay.
and thank you, Mrs. Davis, for catching that.
Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, item K, non-renewal of classified contracts, same deal, you can see that there. Even when you see the teacher assistant, that's because they are funded through Title II-D funds, and that's why they are on there, so. I'd like to recommend that as well.
Can I get a motion to act on item K?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or concerns?
When do we find out about the funding?
Generally early summer.
Oh, okay.
We usually have to have our application submitted by June 30th, so they give us like 2 weeks to get it done, so
Okay.
they're gracious in giving us so much time. But yeah, the allocations usually are released first, second week in June, but typically lately it's been like the second week in June.
Okay.
I don't expect a change there, but there's been a lot going on at the federal level with funding for
Okay.
education.
Thank you.
Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, next one, renewal of administrative contract. I'd like to recommend Dr. Dale Rush, a 3-year contract, Adam Hall, a 3-year contract, and Rachel Taylor, a 3-year contract.
I'll make the motion to act on item L.
I'll second.
Questions or concerns?
Yes, Mike Raholi though?
Yep.
Will he be on?
So Mr. Crowley, we're gonna have a conversation probably in June.
Okay.
With that, with everything, so.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Crowley's contract is not up. He is still
Okay.
in the middle of his contract.
But,
Yep, absolutely. Something we wanna do, and he's working very, very well right now with, Mrs. Irwin in the transition, and so, but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Just like I had talked to you guys about, but
Right.
waiting a little bit here till June on that one, okay?
got it.
Yeah, but nothing has changed with what I talked
Okay.
about.
Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
All right, next one is one that's strange and one that I hope we don't have to do very often, but it is a reduction in force. And that is for the multi-tiered system of support coach. When we hired this position, it was hired as a 2-year position. We posted it as such. It was paid for out of Title II-A funds. And I just want to keep saying that so Jason's proud of me for actually knowing where things are paid for out of here with everything. However, as we went through this, here's where I made a mistake. If we ever do something like this again, I need to do an MOU with the union certifying that it's not there. If not, or that it's only gonna last 2 years. If not, it falls under normal employment. Well, we have no issue whatsoever with Katie's performance or the job that she's doing. It's just this, we're shifting these funds to the new director of title and reading services. And so by doing that as a reduction in force, it's signifying that this has nothing to do with performance, and it puts our person that's being in the RIF position on a callback list, that if something opens up in her content area within the certified contract book, she's immediately called back. We don't interview, we don't do anything like that. She has 2 years where she's called back. So that's what this reduction in force is doing. Again, something that I hope we don't have to do again, but that's why we're operating that way. It's the first time since I've been here that we've done this.
I'll make the motion to act on item M. Second?
I'll second.
Questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesky?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, next one, we can do 1, 2, and 3 together. Contracts. Total Education Solutions, we do have 2 students that are attending there. We just added a new student to that. That is a school that helps service people with students. They just have special needs that we hear. The Spark Internet Service Agreement, this is where we get our internet from. That's the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium. This is where we get it from each and every year. And the ComDoc agreement, that is for our printers and copiers. This is up, this is a 5-year contract. Nick did a lot of work with this, really appreciate Nick's leadership on that. we are getting new equipment and saving 10%. So really appreciate Nick's leadership and Nick's work on that with us. But I'd like to recommend contracts 1, 2, and 3.
Can I get a motion to act on, what?
I have a family member that works at ComDoc. Does that matter?
They live with you?
No.
I don't, if you want to abstain, then you
Okay.
can, but
Okay.
you don't I don't believe that you legally have to,
Okay.
If you're not financially benefited in any way,
or anyone in your immediate.
anyone in your immediate family.
Okay, then yeah, I'll
Yeah.
vote as normal.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I didn't pay attention to that before. Okay, thank you.
Can I get a motion to act on item N, 1, 2, and 3?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kreski?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, item O, memorandum of understanding. Normally, we don't have to approve these, they just roll into the contract that we approve. However, with STRS lowering the retirement years of service from 32 to 33, we did an MOU with our teachers union on our retirement incentive. We had no one that took us up on the 32 this year to jump into it. However, for next year, we are going to consider first-time eligible at 32 or 33 years. That is because people that were thinking they were gonna go next year at 33, I get it, you plan things out, after next year, it reverts back to our original language of first-time eligible, which will be considered 32 years. But I'd just like to ask that we approve that since we are going to be paying out incentives based on it.
Can I get a motion to act on item O?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kreski?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
All right, miscellaneous, we can do these ones again. This is Q 1 and 2. This is actually the last week. What's that? Son of a gun.
There's so many.
I have so many, and by the way, I was kicking them off here, ready to go. All right, thank you. That's why you guys keep me straight, Mr. Gretzky. I appreciate it. Board policy, this is what we approved the first reading of last time around. Nothing has changed since then. And so unless you guys have any question, I'd like to ask for final approval of these. Sorry, I'm getting quicker with my.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second? I'll second. Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will call the roll.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kreski?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Okay, item Q, miscellaneous. Approve an overnight trip for our HOSA students for the national competition. That is to Nashville. That's just what we had Mr. Berger and them go to for BPA. This will be for our students, Abby is here, Andre is her mom, that was also here, more going down, as well as Miles. And also, we'd like to approve our graduates for the class of 2025. We still have some that are working this week to make it there, but we're approving everyone, but we'll present them to you on Friday night as the people that have met the requirements, and we're confident that everyone here working is gonna get there too.
Can I get a motion on item Q, 1 and 2?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Kreski?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
The detail. I love the detail on that.
Okay, informational items.
You know, I do have several House bills and Senate bills that are being, well, the House Bill 96, of course, is the appropriations bill, which has been passed in the House, and the Senate is working on that now, so we'll see where that goes. House Bill 186 has, it's in committee right now. It says school property taxes, school funding formula to authorize a reduction in school district property taxes affected by a millage floor, the 20-mil floor, that would limit increases in such taxes according to inflation and require a corresponding adjustment in school funding formula. It's in committee, so it'll be a little adjustment to.
I attended a webinar on that.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain level of education to understand how that impacts your school.
Oh, geez.
It is based on the GDP of the economy, and there's a inflationary measure that's used based on GDP, and your property taxes can't go up by more than what that GDP is over a 3-year period when they do the triennial update.
That'll be Jason's job to explain that to everyone when he comes out.
It's gonna be the county auditor's job to explain to us how they get to that level, and
Then it'll be your job to explain to us in language we can understand.
Well, let's just hope it doesn't get.
most of our county auditors are good. We have some county auditors across the state, some rural areas, and there's not any educational requirements, and it's going to be quite significant of a change if that were to be adopted, so, that's one of the bills for property tax reform that,
Yeah.
would be very challenging to implement.
Well, it's, like I say, it's in committee right now, it's about 25% of the way, so we got a ways to go on that. There's a couple companion bills, Senate Bill 107 and House Bill 153, that's talking about, we talked about it before, school board members would be listed as, on a partisan ballot, and that's in committee, so you're gonna have to designate what party you're from, and I don't know if they're even gonna go further and talk about, having, pre-elections for the,
Primaries.
parties, so I don't know where that's going, but it's in committee, it's just starting up, so that'll be interesting. But it's in both House and Senate, so each of them have a bill, so that means it's probably gonna go forward.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When you see those companions?
Yeah, when they
Okay.
have companion bills, they're talking. Okay, and then companion bill was Senate Bill 113 and House Bill 155, prohibits diversity, equity, and inclusion in public schools. So which we've already acted on, a lot of that's a federal, push, and now it's coming to the states, they're going to push the issue. So, those are just a couple, there's several more, but I just thought those had, we'd like to look at, so. But that's what's going on,
Thank you.
plus more.
The other interesting going on right now is the paying of student teachers, which they're recommending that schools pay minimum wage to their student teachers. So that will be interesting, I think, for
That would be-
placement issues too,
Yeah.
having to do with how many, so we have the budget for that, like if
Sure.
an
I actually, to
employee.
be honest, I hadn't heard that, so I'm glad.
Yeah, I
so-
hadn't seen that.
No, but, I'm sure that would come to your world really.
Some schools may not volunteer to do it. if they
Right,
have to
that's,
pay-
yeah, there's a lot
That's
more
the
things
problem.
about,
Pay
although I would
additional.
love that to be a paid internship.
Yeah.
I also worry about what
Yep.
already have
Oh,
in
you
budget
mean
issues.
placements.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any concerns?
No, it's up to you guys. or
Okay.
Steve.
Okay, other business. I'll make a motion to amend the regular meeting schedule for 2025 to move the November 17th, 2025 regular meeting to November 10th, 2025 at 6 o'clock p.m. Get a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesi?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Good, I'll make a motion on the treasurer contract addendum that we talked about in executive session.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesi?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Okay, any questions pertaining to the agenda items or board actions? You can email Brett Yegley, Jason Schatzel, or myself, Tom Kowalski. Okay, moving on to executive session, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for discussion of employment personnel. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesi?
Aye. Session. And I will make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schatz, will you call the roll?
Mr. Kvesi?
Aye.
Dr. Knoll?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.